If you've just been diagnosed with Demodex blepharitis, or you've seen my video about these mites that can live on your eyelids and cause a bunch of issues, the most common questions that I'm getting on that video is, what would be the best treatment for me? So in this video, we're gonna go over the top 3 treatments that most people talk about: tea tree oil, the eye drop XDEMVY, and Ivermectin cream, and which one works best for what type of person. We're gonna go into more detail in this video, and then at the end of the video, I'll give you my best tips at preventing any Demodex blepharitis from happening. Let's focus in. But first, quick recap of what Demodex is. Now, the first thing to know is that this is pretty common. At the age of 45 or older, nearly 3 out of 4 people have Demodex or mites living on their face or their eyelids. It's that common. And the number only gets bigger as people age. These little mites can live in the hair follicles, and they'll eat your oils and your hair and cause waste and debris and cause flakes on your eyelashes, and can cause all of these symptoms that mainly causes all the problems. Redness, inflammation, irritation, dry eyes can cause major issues with the meibomian oil glands in the eyelids, which causes dry eyes, but also can lead to chronic styes. In fact, it's so common when we're talking about blepharitis, so the inflammation of the eyelid or eyelash debris that's causing all these issues, 7 out of 10 people that have blepharitis is actually Demodex blepharitis, or blepharitis caused by these eyelid mites. And on top of this, it's more tricky to treat than normal blepharitis. This goes a step above than normal eyelid hygiene, cleaning your eyelids, even though that does help. But with the eyelid mites, they really have a short life cycle. They only live for 2 weeks. And out of those 2 weeks, 5 days are spent as an adult. The rest of the time they're spent as eggs or different stages of life. And so when you treat the eyelids, you treat the mites, you might get rid of them in a certain stage, but then 2 weeks later, you got the next stage or the next life cycle coming up. So starting with probably the most common over-the-counter natural treatment, tea tree oil. This has been out for years as a possible treatment for Demodex. The active ingredient in there is terpenin 4-ol, and it is put in a lot of eyelid wipes and washes, as seen right here. I'll put the list in the description if you want to check them out. I've used all of these. They're all really good. Now, tea tree oil does need to be more specific and taken care of as far as treating Demodex. The concentration of tea tree oil has to be really, really low. We're talking under 5%. If you get above 5%, it can be really irritating to the surface of the skin and actually cause some harm and damage. And so if you're putting straight tea tree oil on your eyelids, yikes, don't do that. You're gonna wanna definitely have a diluted type of application here. And on top of that, another challenge is that it could have a hard time getting deep into the oil glands, the meibomian oil glands, where the eggs of the mites are. If your oil glands are clogged, if you have coverings over them, hardened shell over the pores of the oil glands, and you put the tea tree oil on there, it can have a really hard time getting in there and fully eradicating the mites. So a lot of times it can be best course of action to do warm compresses, a different type of eyelid scrub or eyelid hygiene, and then on top of that, the tea tree oil to hopefully can get into the meibomian gland to really be active against all stages of the mites. When we boil it down, who is tea tree oil best for? Definitely in those mild, maybe moderate cases of Demodex blepharitis. It can handle that. 2, it's definitely for the budget conscious. Definitely the most cheap way to treat Demodex blepharitis. It's natural, it's over the counter, and so it's readily available as well. And number 3, for people doing maintenance, if they've had treatments with other, maybe the drops or anything like that, and they just want something that can maintain it so their Demodex doesn't come back with full force, this is perfect to kind of do a routine tea tree oil application on the eyelids just to kind of keep it maintained. Second treatment is XDEMVY. This is the first and only FDA approved prescription eye drop specifically designed to target Demodex blepharitis. This is lotilaner 0.25%, and the mechanism of XDEMVY is pretty interesting. It triggers a massive overstimulation of the parasite's central nervous system, which then causes a severe spastic paralysis. So they are paralyzed, which then leads them to starve to death because they can't move. Now, this is a 1 drop twice a day for 6 weeks. course, and it's 6 weeks because they're trying to get multiple generations. Like I said, a life cycle is 2 weeks, so they're catching nearly 3 generations here of mites that might show up. Now, who is XDEMVY for? This is for the moderate to severe cases of Demodex blepharitis. This is really the go-to medication if you're seeing a lot of signs of these mites or collarettes on the eyelashes and you know that there's Demodex in there. This is definitely a go-to and can work really, really well. If someone's having recurring or chronic styes, this can also help with that. Or if someone maybe started with tea tree oil and it's really not helping that much or maybe not working that well, then this is usually the next go-to is starting XDEMVY. Now, one of the biggest downsides here is definitely the cost of the eye drop. Now, if you are lucky and your insurance might help or cover it, sometimes people will pay a $30 or $50 copay. Again, you have to be lucky here. If the insurance doesn't cover it, or if you're going after cash price, I mean, it can go, pretty much up to $2,000 for one bottle. It can get crazy. A lot of times it might be between $800 and $1,000. Now, luckily, the company does have some good savings programs that can bring it down into that $50 copay range. You do have to do a little bit of work for it and applications, but you can get it down cheaper. And another thing to consider, because it's a medication drop, there can be some side effects. Luckily, the side effects with XDEMVY are pretty minimal. Probably the most common with about 10% of the people that use XDEMVY is some stinging and burning, some irritation when they first put in the drop. And because of the medication can sometimes be irritating to the surface of the cornea and cause these little punctate keratitis or little inflammation punctate spots on the cornea that can be irritating, sometimes make you feel like you have a foreign body in the eye on the cornea. Again, very rare and minimal, but could happen. But overall, most people tolerate XDEMVY really well, and most people really like the drop. In fact, I've had a lot of people tell me, hey, really, the only thing that's helped me with my eyelids and dry eyes is the XDEMVY drop. So out of anything that they've tried. So I always find that interesting when they say that. And the third most common option being discussed more and more every day is Ivermectin cream. Now, this is an off-label use for Demodex blepharitis, but is really commonly discussed. Now, to apply the Ivermectin cream, you can apply it on the eyebrow, the nasal folds, cheeks, maybe lower eyelid, but you never want to put it in your eye or even on the base of the eyelashes because, yeah, it's not made or meant to be put in the eye. That can be bad. The cream can work really well when there's a combination of ocular rosacea, rosacea on the cheeks or the nose, because usually when a doctor is going to reach for Ivermectin cream, then there's a widespread facial Demodex as well, not just an ocular Demodex or Demodex blepharitis, because you can apply it everywhere and help really eradicate all Demodex on the face that's just getting out of control. Now, this medication can be really cheap to get, which can be nice for those people that have widespread facial Demodex. So with that being said, how do we choose? Here's how we can break it down. If this is your first time with Demodex or the condition is really mild, you can easily reach for tea tree oil. An alternative to tea tree oil might be Manuka honey, also shown to be a little bit effective towards Demodex mites, and that's if you are really sensitive to the tea tree oil like I am, and you want something a little bit more easier on the eyelids, then Manuka honey might be the way to go. But tea tree oil has been shown to be really effective and a good first option. If your Demodex is more moderate, maybe moderate to severe, or you've been using tea tree oil and it hasn't helped at all, then XDEMVY is definitely one that the doctor will reach for. You can kind of think of it as this: if you have an infection, then this is your round of antibiotics to get rid of the bacteria. Rather, this is your round of anti-parasitic medication to get rid of the Demodex mites. And then number 3, if you have an overlap of ocular rosacea, rosacea on your cheeks, nose, maybe face, then Ivermectin is usually the one to reach for here. Now remember, if you have any of this, you want to be talking with your eye doctor about the possible treatments. Everybody's case is different and everybody's eyes are different. If you've tried tea tree oil for 6 weeks and nothing seems to be helping, then yeah, you want to go into your eye doctor and have a discussion what the options will be. Now, like I said, we're going to go over what are the best tips to prevent Demodex blepharitis from happening. The number one top one should definitely be eyelid hygiene. Like I said, tea tree oil wipes or washes can be the best used for maintenance, daily maintenance, being consistent, cleaning the eyelashes with those wipes or washes can be the best thing that you can do. Number two, regularly changing your makeup applicators that might get anywhere near that, not reusing them too much. That can definitely help prevent from getting or spread of Demodex. Number three, more emerging data is coming from this, but applying a very, very, very thin layer of petroleum jelly or Vaseline over the base of your eyelashes. Now, a very thin layer, and you want to talk to your eye doctor about this. But the idea behind it is if you put that layer that kind of blocks the oil glands or blocks the eyelashes, the eyelash follicles, it immobilizes the mites from roaming around and kind of keeps them sealed in there and can keep them from spreading or feeding or anything like that. And so if you do that every night and then wash it off in the morning, there's a chance that it can help maintain any Demodex from getting out of control. Now, obviously, there are other treatments to Demodex, like intense pulse light, IPL, as an option. And I mentioned that in my main video if you want to check that out, or you can check out this video. I talked about specific eyelid wipes that I tried that I feel worked the best. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, let me know. Stay focused.